Good afternoon, welcome to Adweek Europe. I'm very glad to say I can talk about my former employees, the BBC. I worked there for 17 years, I've still got the scars to prove it, in a very positive way now because there's some very exciting content coming out next month. And joining me to talk about that is Sol Rogers, the founder of Rewind. Really exciting stuff, all to do with a virtual walk in space. Tell me all about it.
So it's a BBC tender with the R&D department looking at how the BBC could or should get into virtual reality content production. And so we all kind of collaborated and got around together and actually looked at one of Tim Peake's interviews about what it was like to be in space. And so we thought, well, could we take people to space? First thing we did was we built the entire space station, nuts and bolts accurate.
Wow.
And it was going to be a factual documentary. And once we really started to get up there and experience what it was like, we found there was actually a story to be told about one of his missions. So the VR spacewalk was crafted from that. And it's really became fundamental, and it's won a huge amount of awards globally, mainly because it's one of the first pieces of content which lets you tell a story, which is what the BBC is so good at, but makes you feel like you're in control. We give the illusion of freedom.
So they brought the storytelling and you brought the tech.
Basically, we had all the tools, but the lovely thing about the BBC and why they're so phenomenal is they really have creative storytellers at their core, and they wanted to show what new technology they can work with in.
How long did it take from start to finish?
So the production was about 6 months in development, but the core of when we were working on it was only 8 weeks of the actual making of the project.
That's amazing. It normally takes 8 weeks to get a meeting organised at the BBC and another 8 to get everybody in the room.
well, when they work with us, we work fast.
It's obviously been an amazing project to work on. And who's it going to be aimed at when it's actually launched?
So it's aimed at anybody with a VR headset and a VR device. So there is a real lack, there's a bit of a desert at the moment for good content on all of the platforms. So we're releasing it next month on the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. It's the first main two stores. And the reason for that is those devices are kind of the Ferraris of VR. They both have positional tracking, presence, and the ability to have interactivity. There's a lot of work in 360 video as VR, which normally where most TV film production comes to, because it feels natural. A set, a location, actors and actresses. But what we've done is actually built normally from games production. So it's running off a game engine. We say real time often because people think it's a game, but it's not a game.
What's the next step then? Are you hoping for more collaborations with the BBC?
Absolutely. We have a couple of projects inbound where we're talking to them. But really it's about making flavors of content. There haven't been enough people creating VR games, VR experiences, VR stories. So we all need to start making more and more content. And a lot of people say that VR is a wild west at the moment. We're in early days. But what people are saying really is that we haven't made enough content. We haven't iterated enough. Because every piece of content I make, I learn from and go, well, that was phenomenal. That didn't work so well. So let's make more of that. And so the BBC really taking a marker and putting it down and saying, no, we're going to make our stories in this world. It's been phenomenal.
Who's it aimed at? Everybody? School kids? The entire world?
So it's a U, so it has anyone can experience it. There's no swearing, no particular violence. Or
Unlike
okay.
here today, but anyway.
But actually, one thing to talk about is actually how you rate a VR experience is still being defined. The idea of a 12, a 15, and 18, because we're not looking at something on a frame and a screen, the impact of the content is very, very different. You feel like you're in space. So much so, we put 2 astronauts through it. So NASA astronauts, Nicole Stott and Leland Melvin, phenomenal guys. And put her in the experience. She was going around, and she wouldn't let go of one of the handles. And I said, well, you know, it's a game. She was like, I know, but if I let go, this is going against my training. I was like, well, you're probably the only people that know that this is something.
Fantastic.
This is a little bit of story.
So you've got NASA on board, you've got the BBC on board. Who's next?
Well, may as well get ESA as well, get the full hat, and see where we go. Maybe we'll talk to Elon Musk.
But looking at the whole, we've got a lot in this room at the moment, VR and AR development. The great thing about what you've done is it is accessible to everybody as of next month. Whereas other aspects of VR are quite in their infancy, or it's driven by games, or it's driven by some industry. This is going to be out there for anybody to have a go at and to see how it works.
Absolutely. So it's free for a start. As the BBC does some phenomenal work, allowing the work to be seen by anybody and everybody. And we've really made it as simple as possible to allow us to feel like we're in space. So learning how the user experience is put in, sound design and everything else. And it's not a game. There's no winners or losers. There's no points to be won. It's an interactive experience. So we say experience because it's not just a story. Something that you have input into is very, very different.
So just let us know then when we can all access this. When's the big day?
I can't see the exact date, but
industry secret.
Next month on Oculus Rift and HTC Vive.
That's not a BBC next month, because I know BBC next month's gone for 6 months. I worked there 17 years. I know the inside story.
Well, it's up to them, so I'll leave it to them to say exactly when.
Well, look, really exciting stuff. Thank you very much for talking to us today. So space is no longer the final frontier, thanks to the BBC. Look out for that next month. If you want to talk to us, of course, it's #AW Europe.